On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 2010. We're going to be taking a look at Foreigner, and they're going to be performing Juke Box Hero. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another live analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you everyone for joining me tonight in the live chat room. We're going to be jumping into this video, and you'll have to strap yourselves in for this one because it's just over 11 minutes in length. So what I'm going to be doing is jumping into the video probably quite regularly. So there's going to be a link to this performance video in the description below, so you guys can click on that if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But let's get Foreigner up on screen and we'll be able to see how they get on. Like I said, I'll be jumping in a little bit now and again because there is so much to point out in this performance, but let's get them on screen and get into this.
Standing in the rain, with his head hung low, couldn't get a ticket, was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd, he could picture the scene, put his ear to the wall, like a distant scream. He heard one guitar, just blew him away. Saw stars in his eyes, and the very next day, on a beat-up six-string, second-hand store. Didn't know how to play it, but he knew for sure that one guitar felt good in his hand. Didn't take long to understand that one guitar stopped waving low on a one-way ticket, only one way to go. So he started rocking, and he never gonna stop. Gonna keep on rocking. That boy's got to stay on top. Be a jukebox hero, stars in his eyes. Be a jukebox hero, with just one guitar. Jukebox hero, stars in his eyes. Jukebox hero, he'll come alive tonight. Are you still with us out there, Nashville? Let me hear you say yeah. Come on, let me hear you say yeah, yeah. Alright, wanna hear you say yeah, yeah. Come on now, one more time, I say yeah, yeah, yeah. Alright.
I'm just going to jump in here. This is one of those videos that is really difficult to jump into because, as you can tell from my hair, this is right down my street in terms of genre, overall sound, the guitar playing, the lead vocal as well. And that's the first thing to point out really about the performance. Is I know that a lot of people would be expecting, if they didn't know more recently about Lou Gramm leaving Foreigner, they'll be expecting that vocal. But we have Kelly Hansen here on lead vocal, and it's one of those things about, if you are a fan of the band and have been for many years, I think any band that then changed the singer, some people are always going to be a little bit apprehensive about having another singer sing all of the classics and singing it anywhere close to that original vocalist. But in Kelly's case, I think that it is so close, the way that Kelly manages to control his voice, the tone of it as well. Obviously, they are totally different singers, and you'll be able to tell one from the next. It isn't a total imitation that Kelly's doing here. But if you do go and watch this video, click on that link in the description below, because you'll see a lot of comments from die-hard Foreigner fans who actually have said Kelly is actually pretty good. And I would say that he's more than pretty good, because his vocal is just so controlled. He's all over it for the whole performance. And later on, we are going to be having a look at the range that he covers, the notes that he hits, his not only vocal technique, but mic technique, and something that you can look out for to determine how a singer is getting the sound that they are when they're singing live. But we are going to be just looking at the performance overall to begin with. And first off, the tightness of the band. They are so tight. This is obviously one of those performances that's been recorded and post-edited, or should I say post-mixed and produced, because you can tell that those backing vocals have had a lot of production on them. And I'm not saying that there's any auto-tune going on here, because there isn't, but it's putting all of those vocals together so it doesn't sound like separate voices. It's almost like a wall of voice that's coming in behind Kelly, and they are so spot on. It is an album version almost, but in a live setting, because it is so well executed. And we're going to be watching it for the whole 11 minutes and 3 seconds, and you'll be able to see the way that they changed the dynamics throughout the whole performance in order to keep it interesting. We've just gone into a part where Kelly's getting a little bit of crowd interaction, getting them involved, and it's such an important part of, I think, the hard rock show, and having all of these bands from the 80s that put on such a show when they performed. And that's what you went to see, as well as just top level technical ability and just musical ability across the board. But the singers that were around in the 80s, they're just hitting crazy notes. And in this particular case, we've got notes that are going to be way up there, not only in the male tenor range, but the counter tenor range. So, like I said, we will have a little look at that a little bit later on in the video. We have got a long time in order to have a look through it. But when we're talking about the backing vocals as well, we have Jeff Pilson, by the way, on bass, and a lot of people will know him from Dokken, and I've done a couple of Dokken covers on this channel somewhere, but I'm certainly a fan of Dokken and Jeff, because he's got a fantastic voice in his own right. And the reason that I mention that is because of the backing vocals being so spot on. You've got top quality vocalists in the whole band, where you might have 4 or 5 voices that all come in so on pitch and so perfectly harmonized that it just sounds like a record. And that's exactly what we get in this performance. So we have had this little bit of a dynamic breakdown. I love the way that this song starts, because we have foot pedal and some keys and that lead vocal, but it is very much dynamically held back. And then when we get into the verse, the guitars come in, there's so much impact. And by the time we get into the chorus, this is where the real impact happens, because we have this transition into halftime. And I think there's even a tendency to take a tiny bit of tempo out and transition to halftime. So it means that because we've now got a total change in emphasis it's going to have that impact. And this is one of those songs that has one of the standout choruses, and it is an anthem. Everybody just gets into the chorus, sings along because it is so dramatic. And just quickly, by the way, thank you Common Sensible for that $5 donation, and Orlando as well for that $2 donation as well. And thank you guys for joining me on this live analysis. Hello everyone in the chat room tonight. So continuing on, we've got so much going on here, and when we're talking about the dynamics, a lot of that, when you've got a sound like this where there is so much emphasis on the guitar playing. By the way, we've got a combination of full guitar chords that are being played here, but also, when I say full chords, we've also got power chords, which technically aren't full chords. They'll be your root note and your fifth. So we've got the combination of sounds here. So the guitar is going to be really thick sounding because we've got those layers. We've got somebody playing the full chord and then another playing just those power chords, just striking them out. And it is so well played across the board here. And we've got Mick on lead, of course, Mick Jones, who wrote this song with Lou back in the day. And the lead work, when we get into it, he's one of those players, Mick, that has such great control of his playing. He's going to be playing minor pentatonics, blues scale, but total control of vibrato, and that's why it just sounds so expressive when he does play. But what we're going to do, we'll jump back into the video, maybe listen to a bit of guitar, but then we'll dive into the guitar probably towards the end of the video when Mick gets more into the solo and lets loose a little bit. But we'll have a little look at Kelly's voice, but his range and what he's actually doing is in this song, because it is so impressive. But let's jump back into the video and listen out for those vocals and Mick's guitar playing, because it is seriously impressive.
Well, I know everybody in here, can you feel it? Want you now, gonna hear you now, can you feel it?
I'm just gonna jump in again. We've got some great vocal ad-libs going on here from Kelly and also Mick. I want to get the guitar going just because I want to show you the dynamic change that we have. And by the way, I've got the Geo out tonight, and the strings are really old on this, so my intonation is going to be a little bit out. But I'm not sure whether you can see the fretboard. It's not really important for this part of the video. But we've got this palm muted right hand, just keeping those strings really quiet. You can even roll off a little bit of volume if you want to get it even cleaner. Like that. And there's such a great tone that Mick's got as well. I'm gonna have to try and get something similar. It's kind of there when I just open up that volume a little bit, but it's all in the dynamics, the right hand, because if you're going, you'd kind of lose the whole, well, you wouldn't lose the groove necessarily, you'd lose the feel and the overall place dynamically where you want to be, because applying that right hand is going to take you dynamically to a different place. If I'm going, you might want to play it like that when the whole band is opening up and you've got the drums, the open hi-hat, everything's really kicking in, you got the snare, center snare being hit, and everybody really laying into their instruments. But as soon as you apply that palm muting, that's where you bring the dynamics down. And top band, they're gonna bring it all down collectively, and that's the most important thing, because you might see sometimes bands who are playing live, and the guitarist might bring it down, but the drummer's still going for it, or the drummer brings it down and the guitarist is still going for it. So if the whole band aren't dynamically on the same page, then you're not going to get this level of performance and this kind of quality, and you can instantly tell a top band because they all bring everything down collectively and they instantly know exactly where each other are dynamically. But let's get back into this.
Raise your hands up. Everybody get your hands up. I want to see them up in the air. Get them up now. Raise them up. Get them on up, 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 yeah. I want to see them out. But can you feel it? Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Want to feel it, 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 feel it.
I'm just going to jump in again. Listen out for that. You're just dancing on the edge of a pinched harmonic, and it's these tiny little details. Obviously, being a guitar player, you notice these little things that are just thrown in now and again, just a hint of harmonic, totally controlled by Mick. But let's get back into it.
In a town without a name, in a heavy downpour, floating past the sun shadow, by the backstage door, like a trip through the past, till that day in the life, and not one guitar plays whole lot change. Now we need to keep it right, and you're never gonna stop, gotta keep on rocking. Box hero, stars in his eyes. We're the Jukebox Hero. Oh, Jukebox Hero, stars in his eyes. Jukebox Hero, here comes our analyzing.
And you can see how dynamically we've now really opened up from where we were previously. And I do want to get into a little bit of Kelly's vocals. I know that I've got the guitar out, but we will be getting the chords played through at the end of the video and maybe a little bit of lead work as well. But I'm hoping that up on screen I can make a piano appear so that I can show you guys the ranges, and you guys might notice this from the analysis videos that I do, but we haven't had this in a live analysis, so we're going to be attempting to do this and hopefully it'll come up on screen. Here we go, and it cuts off my guitar unfortunately, but doesn't matter because I don't really need the guitar for this part. And if you see on the screen, hopefully you guys can see this, we've got the ranges, and I mentioned before about the vocals here being in the tenor range, and that is just pointed out on the keyboard there. You can see that when I mention high C, in vocal terms being the Holy Grail, and it's something that is referred to in classical music as being the Holy Grail because that's where guys like Pavarotti, I mean Pavarotti was the guy who could hit a high C in full chest voice with such body in the sound, and the high C, you can see it's the C5 on that keyboard. And for reference, hopefully this makes sense, that we're looking at the keyboard, so the furthest C note to the left is C1, and then we go through the octaves up to high C, and there is going to be C6 and C7 as you go higher and higher and higher. It's just that I've stopped at C5 just to make it a little bit more relevant for when we're talking about this tenor range. The tenor range really is going to be described as ending at A4, and you should be able to see that on there as well. The B2 to A4, that male tenor range. And we've got the countertenor range, which is something that is going to be after that A4. It goes as high as an E5. But hopefully you'll start to notice that when we're talking about vocal ranges, everyone is different, and everyone's voice goes lower and everyone's voice goes higher than somebody else's. So it's very difficult to classify somebody's range because they might be able to hit notes that just are so broad in a sense of range that you could describe them as having lots of different ranges and just being in the bass or tenor or baritone or countertenor. You get some singers who have such a wide range, literally of 3, 4, 5 octaves. I think maybe even 6 octaves when you're starting to include whistle voice as well. The way that it's classified, or that it's referred to in classical music, is the way that the voice is used. So when we're talking about a tenor in classical music, they are not flipping over into falsetto, and falsetto is false in Italian. So when a singer, and a classical singer, used to flip into falsetto, it's a lot lighter sound and it doesn't have any body to it. It was seen as being false. So it wasn't really singing, and that's the way that they classify it. When you've got somebody who can hit a C5 in chest voice, then that is seen as the tenor range. It's a range that you've got total control of the note, and you can put real body in the sound. So if you could only hit notes above that A4 in falsetto, then you wouldn't be classed as a tenor. So it's the way that the voices are classed is where their comfortable range is and where they can get a consistent sound that has tonal consistency as well. But anyway, back to this. Let's not turn it into a vocal history lesson or anything like that. When we're looking at the notes that are being sung here in this song, we've got Kelly hitting such a wide range of notes because we're going from a D3, I believe, and that's... You can see on the chart where a D3 would be. If you're looking on the left-hand side, I'm not going to be able to explain to you in the notes, but if you know that they go D, E, F, and then G, A, B, C, and then you're back to D again, you're just going through A to G. That's all we do musically, and then those keep on repeating. Hence why you've got C and another C and another C and another C, because the letters just keep on repeating. But anyway, we could be here all night if I try and explain everything in those kind of terms. But we've going to get that range down. We've got the D3, and I have marked it to make it a little bit easier. The top of this diagram says range, and you can see the little dots that extend either side. That's the range that Kelly is covering in this performance. So it does go from that D3 all the way up, you can see, to an E5. So you can argue that, you wouldn't actually have to argue, because here it is clear that Kelly's voice is comfortable in this range. At no point do you think, oh, he's not really hitting this note very well, he's straining, or he's going into falsetto, he's supplying this note in a false way. He's not doing that. So the range that he's covering, it just really proves the point when I mentioned about everyone's voices being different. He's covering the countertenor range, the tenor range, the bass range, the baritone range, all in his voice. He's got notes from all of those ranges. So it just shows how impressive he is as a vocalist, because in order to be able to do that and hit these notes consistently takes so much work, and you can tell that he's got perfect vocal technique, because just look at his mic technique, the way that when he's hitting a high note, he's not going away from the mic. And that's what you sometimes see, because someone, when they're belting, they're increasing the volume of their voice and they're almost forcing the note out. So if they're singing in the verse dynamically, they're going to be quite low down volume wise, because they've got the mic there and they're not really pushing very hard. And when they start to really push, they move the mic back. And you might see that when somebody hits a really high note and they're straining for it in chest voice, belting it out, they'll move that mic away. watch the way that Kelly throughout this whole performance doesn't move his mic, which means that he has got total control of his airflow because he's not having to shout to hit high notes. He's never having to go far away because of the increase in volume. His voice is never increasing in volume. And that is what is so impressive about top singers nowadays that have got that ability to just control their airflow where they don't really have to strain or overwork to get to the top of their range. And this is why Kelly is just a top vocalist. As Lou, I know we're not going to be comparing voices, that's not what I'm doing, but I'm saying that the top vocalists just have this ability to control their airflow so well that it sounds like they're belting and that their voice has got to give out at some point, but it doesn't because they've got perfect vocal technique. But let's get back into the video and we'll see how long we got left. We'll watch it pretty much to the end. I might have to jump in if some of the guitar that happens. I might have to point out some things, but we'll get back into it and we'll watch it for a few more minutes. Just quickly, a little bit of technique in there. We had these pull-offs, open to the open G, and then I think there was a little double pick in there. It's so cool. I might rewind that just to hear that again because, like I said, just Mick is one of those guitarists that you just want to hear him play lead all night. Take it back a little bit further. There it is, just those double picks and the, really cool stuff, but I'll be here all night listening to this, but let's have a go. Another little dynamic breakdown here, and let me just point out some of the chords going on here because we haven't even done that yet. We're pretty much going to be playing just power chords here, so it's going to be in E minor, but we don't really hear that G string of the E minor chord and that open G. You don't really hear that, so you might want to lean on that to keep it quiet, but we've got this into the G over to a D, and with the D you don't want to go too far, just a couple of strings in order to keep that whole power chord sound going on, but pretty much that's gonna be it. And we've got a B in there as well, and I think we're just going down to the first finger, keeping that B on the second fret of your A string, like that. And this is going to be the pre-chorus that I'm talking about, But pretty much from there, those are all of your chords that you're going to need in order to play along. By the way, massive thing that I haven't mentioned yet, the reason I'm using this guitar is because it's tuned to E flat. So if you pick up your guitar and you're in standard tuning and you try and play along with this, you won't be able to. You need to take every string down one note, so down a semitone, and tune your guitar to E flat, and then you'll be able to play with this. It'll be all of the shapes that I've shown you. Oh, we've got this little run. Oh. So yeah, a really cool little riff in there. I might kind of play that through again, just and slow it down a little bit. I think that's a little bend in there. I have to listen out for it. But that kind of stuff is so cool. To then lead us back into that power chord, the E. So yeah, really cool stuff going on here. But let's jump back into it and we'll watch it all the way to the end now. Just a quick note, look at the way that Jeff's playing his bass. He's tilted it towards the ground and he's just got his right hand underneath it, playing the strings. Such a cool guy and amazing player. But it's all about the showmanship as well. This is what you get, and half the reason that so many people loved the 80s, the showmanship and the technical ability all rolled into one. But let's get back into it. I'm just going to jump in here quickly because the line that we had there, and this, my intonation is out on this guitar because the strings have almost had it. But if we're jumping up, let me just try and get rid of the picture so that we can actually see the fretboard. Maybe I should have done that before when I was demonstrating the chords, but I was calling them out as well. So this... That's just if you want to see the left hand. But unfortunately, when I get up high, I'm going to have to tune because the intonation's out. But this line that we have, and then that is also the most impressive part, is always the ending of whatever line, whichever technique you're throwing together. If you can end with a bend and vibrato, as Mick does here, it just sells the line that you've played. Because if you did a run and you went... and then you totally messed it up, you've ruined the line that you just played. So the ending is the most important part of any run, any phrase that you're playing. If you can bend and get vibrato at the top of that bend, it's going to have a full stop at the end of that sentence, and it's not going to take anything away from what you've just played. Because like then, when I mess it up and totally hit an open string, that's now made you forget what I just did because of the ending. So the ending to any line is so important. This is why vibrato for me is one of those techniques that is right up there in terms of getting your guitar and your lead work as a whole to sing and just to sound good. Because anyone can play runs, it's just a case of repetition and gradually speeding them up if you want to get them a little bit faster, but then getting the feel of your personality coming through the guitar and singing through your guitar. That is all about your expression, and vibrato is a massive part of that. But let's get back into this video. And there we have it. Just a couple of things to finish with. We had, I think, a G all the way up there on your 15th fret of the guitar, and that's going to be a G5, by the way. Your C5, high C, is all the way down there. So a crazy note from Kelly. Again, total control of his voice. And it looks like he's really belting that out, but you can see the position of that mic, how under control he is, just keeping it the same distance throughout the whole performance. And with Mick, even more control, vibrato. We had this same kind of technique that we had before, but it's these minor pentatonics, just keeping it all in shape but making it interesting the whole time, and ending on that vibrato is always going to sell your guitar lines, whatever they are. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I am going to just have a quick scroll through because we did have some donations that I didn't manage to address earlier. So we have Stan, who donated $5. Thank you for that, Stan. And Lynn donated $20. Thank you for that, Lynn. And Deborah donated $5 as well. So thank you so much for that, Deborah. And thank you guys for joining me tonight on this live analysis. These happen on Wednesday nights at 12 midnight Greenwich Mean Time. So if you want to join me for a live analysis in the future, then I will see you then. Other than that, I will catch you guys at the next one, and I hope you guys have a great week. Rock!